Hello students, hope you all are fine. Today let's start with class 8th, chapter 3, civics, that is why do we need a parliament? India, we all know, is a democratic country. So according to you, what is democracy? In the words of Abraham Lincoln, democracy or a democratic government is a government which is of the people, by the people and for the people. That means government who is of the people, who is formed by the people and who works for the welfare of the people. That means in a democratic government, all the supreme power lies in the hands of people. In the same way, in India, all the decision making powers lies in the hands of people, and this is done through parliament. Now in this chapter we'll learn how parliament enables the citizen of India to participate in decision making and control the government. But before going into the topic, let's find out from where does this concept of people's participation in decision making and government comes from. To better understand why should people decide, let's recall history. As we all know, India got its independence on 15th August 1947, but this decision was not taken in one day. It has a long story of freedom struggle, and in this struggle almost all the sections of the society participated. And during this struggle, people realized the importance of the ideas of equality and freedom. Somewhere people were not allowed to do whatever they wanted. That means their freedom was denied. That is why they desired for it. In the same way, inequality was there. Like British government used to consider themselves superior and Indians as inferior. Somewhere right to equality was denied. That is why people cherished for equality. Likewise, British government at that time used to frame laws. And Indians, whether they liked this law or not, they were not allowed to raise question and even to criticize the decision. And this happened till 1885 when Indian National Congress was framed. Indian National Congress you see today was formed in 1885, and this body not only raised its voice but also demanded for Indians representation in legislature through elected members in legislature. It was all done by peaceful methods because Indian National Congress always believed in peaceful methods of raising voice. Now by Government of India Act 1909, some Indians got their representation in legislature as well as few Indians got the right to vote. You can say the people who had power and property at that time got this right to vote. But not all the Indians got this right. So somewhere people desired for this right to vote, and our leaders of that time decided that whenever India will get free, we will give this right to the people. And this was done in our constitution through universal adult franchise, and this you have read in your class 6th and 7th, which says that all the adult citizens of India has the right to vote, which means that any citizen who has achieved an age of 18 years have the right to vote. But not all the Indians got this right. So somewhere people desired for this right to vote, and our leaders of that time decided that whenever India will get free, we will give this right to the people. And this was done in our constitution through universal adult franchise, and this you have read in your class 6th and 7th, which says that all the adult citizens of India has the right to vote, which means that any citizen who has achieved an age of 18 years have the right to vote. So this is how people got their right to vote. Now let's see how people participate in decision making. See, it is not possible for every single citizen to reach to parliament and decide what should be done and what should not be done. So what we do, we send our representative who will work on our behalf. Now you cannot send any random person to the parliament to work on your behalf. Like if you want someone to do your work, you have all trust on that person that he is capable of doing that work, then only you give that responsibility to him. In the same way, the person who want to become the representative of the people has to attain the trust of the people, then only he can become the representative of the people, and then only people will give their vote to that representative and he can go to the parliament. Now the parliament, who has all the representatives of the people, forms the government, and this government further takes the decision on the behalf of the people and for the welfare of the people and the country. Now this is how people participate in the decision making. Now let's take parliament and its role. If we talk about parliament, it is composed of two bodies. One is Lok Sabha and the other one is Rajya Sabha. Lok Sabha is also known as lower house. Rajya Sabha is also known as upper house. Now the people whom we elect becomes member of parliament and they are part of Lok Sabha. Now the elections of Lok Sabha are held in the same manner as you have read in your class 7th for state legislatures. In the same manner, elections for Lok Sabha are also held, and the people who gets elected in these elections becomes the member of Lok Sabha for 5 years. That means after every 5 years, fresh elections are held. Let's see how these elections are done. Take this circle as your country, India. Now India is divided into several constituencies, and from each constituency people elect one person who can be from any political party. Now these people become the member of the Lok Sabha, and Lok Sabha has 545 total number of seats, out of which 543 are elected seats plus 2 nominated seats. Now let's take these 2 nominated seats first. Now people on these nominated seats are directly nominated by the President of India from the Anglo-Indian community. Now this Anglo-Indian community is a community of people or Britishers who after independence decided to stay back in India forever. So on the basis of equality, their representation in the parliament should be there. So our constitution decided that President of India will directly nominate 2 people from this community. Now let's take these 543 elected seats. That means India is divided into 543 constituencies, and as I told you, each constituency elect one person who can be from any political party. Now what is political party? Political party is a well organized group of people working with same agenda and with intentions of forming government. Now these members of the parliament does not belong to a single party. They belong to various political parties. In India we have so many political parties like BJP, Congress, Aam Aadmi Party, etc. Whereas we have regional parties also, and you are free to choose any person from any political party. So these members of the parliament belong to various political parties. Now which political party will form the government? It is decided on the basis of the number of members of the parliament and which party has attained how many seats in the Lok Sabha. The party which has secured highest number of seats in Lok Sabha is called as majority party, and this majority party can form government. But it has to fulfill one more condition, that is it has to secure at least half the number of seats of Lok Sabha. Now the total number of seats in Lok Sabha is 543, elected seats is 543, and half the number of these seats are 272. That means this majority party has to attain at least 272 seats, then only that can form government. Now the party which attains majority forms the government, and the political party which attains the second highest number of votes is the main opposition party with other political parties. Now you may ask me, ma'am, what will happen if not a single party attains majority? Then in this case, what happens? One party talks with another party, and both the parties collaborate with each other, and now their seats are calculated in one, and now they have achieved the majority. Now they can form the government, but this kind of government is known as coalition government. After forming the government, how will this be working? What happens? The political party which will form the government, the leader of that party becomes the prime minister. Now this prime minister decides that which member of the parliament should be given the ministries. Ministries are your various departments like health department, like your defense department, your finance department, your home affairs, education, etc. There are so many departments, and these ministries are distributed by prime minister when he feels that that this member of the parliament can take the responsibility of that ministry. Now the prime minister with his ministers together work for the welfare of the people. And this is the first role of the parliament. Yes, we have started role of the parliament, and first role of the parliament is to select the national government. We are talking about national government here, and the first role of parliament is to select the national government. Now let's take other body of parliament, that is Rajya Sabha, also known as upper house of the parliament. Rajya Sabha has total 245 seats, out of which 233 are elected seat plus 12 are nominated seats. Again, on these 12 nominated seats, President of India nominate people who have excelled in various fields. And on these 233 elected seats, members are elected by people of India, though not directly but indirectly. Now, you remember in your class 7th, you have read about the elections of state legislatures where people vote for MLAs. MLAs are member of legislative assembly who are part of state legislatures. Now, these MLAs elect members for Rajya Sabha. So, we can say people not directly but indirectly elect members for Rajya Sabha. Well, Rajya Sabha has an important function of passing the bill. A bill is a proposal of laws which when passed from both the houses later becomes a law. So we can say Rajya Sabha has an important function of lawmaking, as well as if any bill requires any kind of change, Rajya Sabha reviews the bill and make the necessary changes required. So these are the two bodies of Parliament, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Now let's take the second role of the Parliament, that is the Parliament controls, guides and informs the government. Now let's see how Parliament does it. You must have heard about the Parliament sessions. Now these sessions begin with question hour. Question hour is an hour in which all the members of the Parliament obtain the information on the policies of the government. And they may ask questions if they have any from the concerned minister, and this concerned minister is obliged to answer to the questions. As well as if there are any kind of shortcomings, they highlight it and guides the government to improve the plans for the betterment. Normally, opposition party are more active in this role. Now these members of the Parliament are in direct contact with people, so they are the ones who can tell the government, who can inform the government what people expect from the government, so that government can work accordingly for the welfare of the people. Now this is an important role of the Parliament through which Parliament keeps an eye on the working of the government, guides the government and informs the government what people expect from them. It is also a key feature of Indian democracy. Now let's talk about the third role of the Parliament, that is lawmaking. As the name suggests, it says that somewhere Parliament has its role in lawmaking. But the procedure of lawmaking is long drawn. So we will discuss about it in your next chapter. But for now, for this chapter, you have to keep this in your mind that out of several roles of parliament, in your book, only three main important roles of parliament are there. That is, first one, to select national government, second, to control, guide and inform the government, and third is lawmaking. So I hope you are clear with parliament and its role. If we talk about the people in the parliament, our constitution has tried to bring more and more representatives in the Lok Sabha from every section of the society, from all the communities of the society, and even from all the corners of the country. If you remember, I told you that our country was divided into small constituencies, and each constituency sent one candidate in the Lok Sabha. So, in this way, almost every corner of the country has their representation in the Lok Sabha, but still few communities like Dalits, you have read about Dalits in your class 7th, as well as marginalized communities. Now these marginalized communities were not considered in the mainstream of the society like SC and ST, so their representation in the Lok Sabha are very few. So to bring their representation more and more in number, our government has given reservation of seats to them, and from that seats only their candidate can stand in the election. To better understand this thing, we have map in your book. Let's understand this from the map. Now you can see this map and you can see this table which says that pink color represents general category and purple or blue, whichever you can see in the picture, this color represents SC category and green color represents ST category. Now the constituencies which are in pink color, from here only general categories candidate stands in the election, and the constituencies which are in purple color, on these seats only SC category candidates stands for the election. In the same way, now the constituencies which are in green color, only ST candidates stand in the election from any political party. This is how these categories of Dalits and SC/ST have their reservation in Lok Sabha and Parliament, but still one category is lacking behind, that is women. But today women is considered equal to men, so more and more representation of women should be there in Lok Sabha. That is why 33% of the seats today in Lok Sabha is reserved for women category. So this is your chapter, why do we need a parliament, and I hope the concept of parliament and its role is clear to you all. Thank you.